Hey everyone, welcome back. Hope you guys had a great weekend. It's Monday now. We have more firms providing us with quarterly results. We have Hut 8 and Terawulf. We also have news from Hut 8. We also had Sphere and Soluna. I didn't get a chance to get those numbers and put into my data sheets yet, or spreadsheets. That'll be coming up tomorrow, but we'll get into everything we have. Today was a kind of mixed day in the markets. Well, markets were up today. Bitcoin was up today. Miners were kind of mixed today. So we'll get into that towards the end of the video. But as always, you guys know the drill here. This is not financial advice for entertainment only. Please do your own research, and I'm invested in buying coins and companies for full disclosure. So, and if you enjoy this type of content, hit the like button, subscribe, helps me out tremendously. Let's take a look at the story that we do have on Hut 8, which coincides with their merger with USBTC. So Hut 8 announces receipt of interim order and filing of management information circular in connection with the business combination with US Bitcoin. So this is actually good news. We're getting a little bit closer to when they possibly might finalize that deal. And it looks like it's going to be towards the end of September, possibly, if they get everything done in time. But here's the details of it. So shareholders of record at the close of business on August 8th, 2023 are encouraged to vote at the special meeting to be held on September 12th, 2023. The company has obtained interim order from the Supreme Court of British Columbia, basically to proceed with getting the votes that they need to merge, potentially. And down here, the completion of the transaction is subject to certain conditions, including the receipt of the requisite approval from the shareholders, the final order of the Supreme Court of the British Columbia at an application, which is scheduled for September 15th, 2023, and other closing conditions customary in transactions of this nature. If all necessary approvals are obtained and the conditions to the completion of the transactions are satisfied or waived, it is currently anticipated that the transaction will be completed by September 30th. So basically, within the next month and a half, they may finally have the two companies be merged, which would then obviously greatly increase Hut 8's transactional hash rate up to about 7.5 when that happens. So that'll be interesting for them to get to that point, and it'll obviously help with their numbers a little bit, well, quite a bit. Being that they're having troubles right now with Drumheller and North Bay, they've had obviously taken miners out of there. So this will definitely help them out tremendously here. So we'll see how the shareholders actually vote on it on September 13th. And maybe we'll get some updates from them at that point. Okay. So that was pretty easy here. Let's take a look at Hut 8's actual report for Q2 numbers here. There's not a lot of great news in this, unfortunately. And that's why I said the combination of USBTC with Hut 8 is going to be a big boom for them, I think. This is definitely going to help them out tremendously because they have been struggling here for the past year for many reasons. Okay, but here's what we do have for them. Q2 highlights. I don't know if you want to call these highlights, but revenue decreased by 24.6 million to 19.2 million during the quarter ended June 30th compared to 43.8 million during the quarter ended June 30th of last year. That's a huge decrease there. It's basically 50% decrease, roughly, and maybe even a little bit more than that. So that's not good there. The company mined 399 Bitcoin in the quarter ended June 30th of this year, and approximately 58% decrease compared to the quarter ended June 30th of last year, primarily due to an increase in the average Bitcoin network difficulty, resulting in decrease in Bitcoin mined, the impact of the suspension of the operations at the company's North Bay facility, and ongoing electrical issues at the company's Drumheller facility. Excuse me. I had to clear my throat there. And let's see, there was something else. Here we go. So the electrical issues at the Drumheller site have been compounded by high energy rates, which further increase curtailment at the site, which is unfortunate. It just seems like they keep getting hammered one way or another from one direction or the other direction, or from a third direction even, on operations. And it's unfortunate. Because I think last year they were doing really good with ethereum mining, everything else that was going in place. When that all stopped, it just seemed like things snowballed for them, and then they just couldn't catch a break. So hopefully, once they get past this USBTC merger as well, things will kind of run a little bit more smoothly for them. They'll get back on track with some of these things, and we do have some things that are positive with them. We talked about in yesterday's video, I believe it was that they are looking to buy some of the assets from Validus, which was the company that was suing them at the North Bay facility. So hopefully that gets resolved as well, and they can buy that facility back possibly. So there's, like I said, a lot of good things that might be happening here in the next months ahead of us. Okay, so this is the details that we do have so far. You guys can read over all this, but let's take a look at the numbers that I do have for them right now. And let's see, where's Hut 8 here? They are right there. Okay, so Hut 8 has 221,611 shares outstanding right now. This is what's reported on their Q2 results. Market cap is about 616 million right now. Now, when they merge with USBTC, that'll be interesting to see how that's going to affect things with the shares being evened out between the two companies and everything else. We'll get an update from that, how that all stacks up, and then what the price of the stock is going to be when that happens. So that'll be interesting as well. Okay. We've talked about some of these numbers here in the past when they provide, I think we did this video on Friday or Saturday, I can't remember now. But we talked about, obviously, their production update for July. And then here's the last 4 quarters revenue. You can see that revenue did increase a little bit here to 14.99 million from the Q1 results of 14.52 million. Bitcoin has gone up in price a little bit here as well. That has helped out. And then we have the last 4 quarters operating costs, which have decreased, which is good, 17.75 million from 25.98 million. So that's good there. Other metrics here, cost to mine 1 BTC. This is not good. This actually went up here to 20.86K. It was 17.16K, so definitely not good. I'm hoping that when they do merge with USBTC, that number starts to drop down there. Bitcoin mine quarterly, you can see that ever since last year, the number has been dropping here. Result of Ethereum going to proof of stake, so that was no longer possible for them. Towards the middle of Q3, I believe, right? That happened in September. Yeah, so that was right around Q3. Q4 was basically a full quarter where they didn't have any of the Ethereum mining going on. And then they had, obviously, issues with the North Bay facility as well. And then Q1, we had the issues with the Drumheller facility as well. And then Q2 is just a combination of all that. So it has been coming down. Plus, the network hash rate has been increasing as well. Debt to equity, lower is better. Did increase a little bit here to 0.18. Still not a big deal. Still very low. Current ratio now is at 6.9. So that did decrease a little bit here from the 9.8. Still not a big deal. They can basically pay their current debts 6, almost 7 times over with their current assets. So not a big deal. Total current assets right now in Canadian is 403 million. Total current liabilities in Canadian is 57.9 million. And then let's take a look at the data that we do have down here. From this, we'll get back into my metrics here in a little bit when we go through some of these numbers here. So current cash or current assets, cash and cash equivalents, actually did improve here to 26 million. These numbers are in Canadian figures from 15.9 million. Accounts receivable went down a little bit here to 2.1 from 2.8. Digital assets actually went down with, they split this up a little bit here. So now they're reporting digital assets and digital assets pledged as collateral as well. So that went down to 334 million, but if you had the 34 million that are pledged as collateral, that would give us 368 million, which is an increase from where they were in Q1. Okay. Deposits and prepaid expenses went down to 5.5 million from 7 million. So total current assets actually went up to 403 million from 378 million prior quarter. Total assets also went up to 557 million from 541 million. So that's good there. Liabilities and stockholder equity. This pretty much stayed where it's accounts payable is pretty close to where it was, not a couple $1,000 in change. Here, lease liabilities went up a little bit here to 4 million from 3.8. Loans payable went up to 31.6 million from 12.3. So a big increase there, almost 3 times or 3x there. Total current liabilities was 57.9 million from 38 million. So quite a bit of an increase there, definitely in the current quarter. Let's see what else do we have here. Total liabilities went up to 86 million from 70 million. And the biggest thing, I mean, we didn't have much of a change here. We had non-current loans payable went down a little bit here to 7.3 from 10.9, which is good. But the stuff up here, the 31 million for loans payable, definitely offset some of that stuff. Okay, total stockholder equity is at 471 million compared to 470, so an increase of 1.1 million roughly. But not even that, 500 some thousand on that one. Revenues. So revenues, well, it's kind of tough. They've had a tough time here in the last 4 quarters. They're down to basically, let me see here, 19, what do I have here? Self-mining Canadian revenues, why do I have that? Okay. 14.9 million was for the self-mining. 4.19 million was for their high-performance computing, which includes data centers for just regular servers and also high-performance computing, HPCs, which run the GPUs. So that's only 21% of the business is the high-performance computing right now. if they were operating at the full 2.6, 2.7 exahash that they have of miners, that difference would be a little bit bigger there. Just because they are, one, curtailing, they're down in operations and everything else, that has made the high-performance computing percentage higher than what it probably should be. I mean, you can see it back here. They were at 3.29 million in Q1 of this of 2022, and we can see here. Let me see here, something close to that. I mean, 4.4 million here in Q3. They had 31 million in, or 27 million in self-mining. Those only like 13%. So I expect that number to change as they merge with USBTC, with their hash rate being at possibly 7 point something exahash. That's definitely going to get a lot less of a percentage of the revenue streams that they do have. Cost of self-mine estimated is 11.2, and that is based on the site operation costs 14.3, and then we're just taking the, let me see here, 21% of that. Okay. Right, that's not right. What am I doing here? I'm taking the numbers 14.3 million negative. 1 minus that. Okay, so 89%. Yeah, so 11.2 would be for the self mining, it looks like, based on these numbers. But if you include everything else, definitely jumps up there. Expenses, like I said, site operation cost was 14.3 million. Depreciation was 9 million. I mean, site operation costs pretty much stayed the same as they were from the prior quarter. Cost of revenue went down a little bit here to 23 million from 25 million, mainly because of depreciation. If we don't include that, that'd be obviously lower. Gross profit, let me see here, minus depreciation was at 4.8. Prior quarter was 4.6, so a little bit of an increase there on that one. Operating expenses, selling general administration, so these are broken down now. So I've calculated or transferred the numbers from this quarter numbers and from Q1 numbers as well. And we can see that we had a one-time transaction cost here of 2.8 million, which is down from the 12.2 that they had in Q1. Share-based payments also went down to 2.4 from 3 million. Salary and benefits actually went up a little bit here. Not much, only maybe $9,000 or so. Insurance expenses went down to 1.1 from 1.6. General marketing, office, other was down to 1.3 from 1.6. Sales tax expense was down to 530,000 from 1.4 million. Professional fees also went up here to 1.5 from 1.2. Decommissioning costs went down to 245,000 from 674,000. Investor relations and regulatory went down to 224 from 292. So total selling general administration actually went down to 12.5 from 24 million. So that's good there. Other expenses went down also to 560. Well, other expenses, there was nothing. Sorry. Total operating expenses in Canadian dollars was 17.5 million. USD is 13.1. That is a nice decrease from the 25.5 in Canadian that they had last quarter and 19.0 in USD dollars. So that's good. And then net income before tax, we had a negative 18 million compared to negative 27 million. So that's good. Net income loss was negative 16 compared to a gain here. They had a loss on reevaluation of digital assets. That was actually a positive for them. So they actually had 108 million, looks like, based on that number there in Q1 for some reason. Other than that, total comprehensive income was negative 1.9 compared to 116 million. And let's see here. Basic and diluted, they came in at negative 8 cents compared to a positive 49 cents in Canadian. Number of shares, and then minus depreciation comprehensive income. This is something new that I'm looking at. If we took out from the bottom number here, this end number, if we took out the depreciation out of it, what would they be at? And they would be actually at 21 million positive, or 10 cents per share, given the number of shares that they had basic and diluted at an average weight at that point. Okay, so those are the numbers that we do have here. And then when we look at the expenses or some of the metrics here, cost to mine 1 BTC came in at $20,000, $864,000. 20,000, yeah, 20,864. Sorry, and that is based on, if we take BTC cost minus depreciation, which is in Canadian, and that takes into the amount of 399 bitcoins that were mined, along with the cost for self-mining estimate, which was 11.208. That gave us the 28,800, sorry, $28,089 in Canadian, 20,864 in USD dollars conversion. Okay, geez, getting tongue-tied here. Compared to the 23,000 and 17,000 that we had here in Q1. So things have obviously increased in expenses there, which they did state that electrical costs have gone up. I'm surprised that they have gone up that much though, but I think it could be also that they had added some more workers to fix the machines and things like that. So that's all being added into it right now as it is. Okay. Now, debt to equity, we already covered that. Current ratio, we covered that. Book to value, you can see that it's 471 million Canadian. Price to book ratio 1.3. Enterprise value market cap plus debt minus cash. We're looking at 392 Canadian dollars. A beta, which I'm just taking basically the, what are we taking there? Income tax before minus the finance expenses and minus depreciation, because we're supposed to be adding those in, but those are negative numbers. So we do a negative on that and multiplying it 1,000 to get $1 million valuable on it. And that's what we came up with, was negative 7.8 million still. And what else do we have here? Revenue. And general administrative compensation, that's still really, really high here. 65% of their costs are general and administrative compensation. Out of the 19 million in revenue, they spent 12.5 million in general and administrative compensation. 65% of that, they were at 128% of that last quarter. So still way, way high. And it'll be interesting to see how when they merge with USBTC, with the two companies and basically the overhead, the employees, everything else, how that's going to translate over into that. So it's going to be an interesting time over the next 3-6 months, I think, when we start getting all the combination data for the two companies. Okay. Shares outstanding is 221, which we reported up top. Based on all these numbers that we do have right now, based on historical performance, you're looking back the last 3 quarters plus the current quarter that we are in right now. I am at $1 to $1.51 right now. Currently, they're at $2.78. I think they're overvalued from what their performance has been like. But I think investors are forward-looking, and they're looking into when they will get to the 7.5 exahash with the merger with USBTC. And at that point, that's kind of what they're looking for on that one. Okay. On my numbers, I was off by 0.44% from, I had them at 15.057 million. They came in at 14.991, so I was off by 0.44%. Happy with that. Love seeing those low comparisons here. And this current quarter that we're in, I'm estimating about 13.6. That's ending in September. And if they merge, obviously, at the end of September, that will be on Q4 numbers for them with USBTC. So that would be actually really good timing for that. Okay. Other than that, let me know what you guys think. My thoughts are on it. USBTC is going to be a big help when they merge with them for growing their hash rate, especially before the halving event. They got to get their costs under control, and they have a huge HODL. So the HODL is definitely helping as well with this. Their HODL right now is valued at approximately, what is that? 268 million, based on 9,152 BTC being HODLed as reported for the end of July, I believe, is what we wrote down here, 9,152. Yep, so that's there. Okay, so that's it for HUD 8. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think of them. And let's take a look at Terawulf. So Terawulf also reported their second quarter 2023 results, financial results. And there's not much here to talk about other than self-mined 908 Bitcoin in Q2 of 2023, an increase of 70% over the Bitcoin self-mined in Q1, which is great to see. Revenue per Bitcoin produced increased 21% in Q2, while power cost per Bitcoin declined 15%. So that's actually really good here. The interesting part about Terawulf is that they report on their monthly production updates the combination of their joint venture and their self-mining Bitcoin as well. So we get a combination of those two, and then when they report their quarterly results in the actually 10Q statement, they only provide what they self-mine. So then we're having to use the data here that they provided down here, which was the 25.3 million total instead of the 14, what are they, revenue, 15.456 million that they reported on their 10Q statement. So I'll try to explain this as best I can in the next part of it. But this is kind of what we got here. Revenue self-mining equivalent was 25.3 million. You have the number 3 here. Go scroll all the way down here, and then that kind of explains how things are working. Number 3 includes Terawulf's net share of BTC revenue generated at the Nautilus facility and profit sharing from hosting agreement. So that's the total combination that they're providing. And the reason I'm using that number is because they provide the Bitcoin's monthly mined based on those two operations, the joint venture and the self-mining plus the hosting. That I think it's all included in there. So when we look at the numbers here for Terawulf, and let's take a look at, oh, there they are. Okay. Terawulf has 221 million shares outstanding right now. The market cap is 557 million right now, pretty close to where Hut 8 is right now. Hash rate 4.9, future hash rate 7.9. We've talked about these numbers here in the past when we talk about the monthly production updates. Their last 4 quarters revenue, self-mining, has been increasing here very, very nicely here over the last 4 quarters. The current quarter looks to be like it's going to be even better than the Q2 quarter, which is great to see. Their last 4 quarter operating costs, self-mining, have stayed relatively flat. They've come down a little bit here from 6.86 down to 6.34. So that's still good, and they've been kind of consistent with that, even though their revenue has been increasing. So that's good to see. There, cost of money 1 BTC minus depreciation. I have them at 9.21 million, or sorry, that would make them unprofitable. 9.21 thousand. Based on the numbers that I have, I'll show you guys what I've calculated based on that, and that's trying to figure out between their self-mining and their JV mining. Bitcoin mined quarterly has been increasing nicely as well. Debt to equity ratio, lower is better. That has gone up a little bit here to 1.22. That is not good. We want to see that below, basically below 1. So they've done a better job here from Q4 and Q3 getting that lowered, but they still need to do a little better job going forward as well. Current ratio, higher is better. That has come up here to a little bit here to 0.1758. They were at 0.3959 in Q1. We want to see that above 1. That means how many times over can they pay their current liabilities with their current assets. Right now, they can't do it. So definitely a lot of debt out there. Total current assets equaled 14.3 million, down from the 22 million they had in Q1. Total current liabilities also increased from the 56 million they had in Q1 to 81 million. That's not good. They've done a better job here from Q4 getting that down, but it seems like they're going back up in this direction here as well. We want to see that come back down so that way they can get the current ratio reversed and get that above 1. But maybe when Bitcoin starts going up, that will happen. Okay, and we'll get back to the metrics here for this. And so here's the current assets. Cash and cash equivalents actually went down to 8.2 from 16.9. And did I have the most recent data on that one? Current assets, total current assets. Okay, so I'm using total current assets. That's why it was throwing me off here a little bit. Total current assets was 14.3. What do we have here? Prepaid expenses went down to 3.4. Also, other current assets increased to 1.9 from 739,000. Digital currencies increased to 708,000 from 117. And then when we look at total assets, that actually decreased to 299 million from 316 million. And the biggest decrease here was from equity and net assets of investees. That was down to 111 million from 122. Property and equipment actually increased to 161 from 159. Right of use assets, pretty close to where they were. Other assets were actually down 798,000 from 1.4 million. So that's kind of what we're looking at there. It's liabilities and stockholder equity. Big changes here were, let's see if there were any big changes. This is pretty close. This one, contingent value rights, that was down to 1.3 from 7 million. And then we had a current portion of long-term debt was added here to 36 million. So 36 million here, right? Okay, so current portion. So that's being moved over from the long-term debt. You can see here in Q1 of this year, they had 113 million in long-term debt. That's got pushed over here to Q2 now, 36.5 million. And now the long-term debt down here is down to 82 million. So that's possibly why we've seen that current ratio and the debt to equity ratio also change on us. For that, total liabilities is at 165 million compared to 170 million. And then looking down here, total stockholder, excuse me. I may need to take a drink of water here before my throat gives out. Hold on a second. Okay, sorry about that pause there. It's a little bit better. Okay, so we looked at that. And then revenues here. So this is where I'm trying to explain to you guys that they have the self-mining, the joint venture mining as well, and they report the combination here. But if you look on their 10Q statement, they actually report only the 15.456, way down below, 20, 30 pages down below that, they actually provide the 25.3, which was also with the joint venture revenue. Okay, so I'm trying to combine it all together here in one table. And based on that, cost of revenue came in at 5,113,000. Percentage of self-mined, I just took the self-mining only, the 15.4 million out of the total revenue here of 25, and came up with 61% of that is for the self-mining. Based on that, I took the number of Bitcoins that they mined for the quarter up top for everything and multiplied it by the 0.61 to get the 555 Bitcoin here for their self-mining is what I'm calculating here. Don't know that for a fact, but this is kind of what I'm calculating based on the revenue that we're seeing. And then I'm able to calculate actually the cost of per Bitcoin being mined up top. So if we go back up here, and we'll talk about this here in a minute, but I wanted to point this out to you guys right now. Whereas the cost to mine 1 BTC minus depreciation came at 9.2. They're saying 7,000 something, but I'm using this number here, which is still really good compared to some of the other miners that we have. So that is really a good number. Okay, so that's how that's being calculated. Gross profit was, let's see here, 10.3. And this is only for the self-mining part of things. If we included the joint venture things, which I believe are being put on as assets possibly, that would increase by another 10 million or so. So that would be around 20 million in gross profit. Cost of operations here, you can see that that went actually down a little bit here to 6.3 from 6.8, which is good. Operating expenses went up here, 468,000 from 308. Operating expenses related party, which I believe is their joint venture, would be the 639,000 from 597. So a little bit of an increase there. Selling and general administrative expenses actually went down, which is good. That went down to 5.8 million from 6.4. Related party was 2.6 from 2.8, so that's also good. That's the joint venture part of it. Depreciation was up actually 6.4 million from 5.4. And impairment of digital currencies was, I mean, pretty close to where it was before. So total cost of operations went up to 16.1 million from 15.7 million. That's understandable. Their hash rate has obviously grown nicely here, so that's understandable. And their operating loss was 5.8 million compared to 9.2 million. So that's good there. So they are going in the right direction as far as operating losses are concerned, and they just need to do a better job at paying things off. But it's going to take it's going to take some time, I guess. What else do we have here? Interest expenses was up to 8.4 million from 6.8. Loss before income tax was 12.4 compared to 6.0 million. So that's good there. And loss from continuing operations was down to 17 million instead of 26 million. Net loss attributed to shareholders was 17.8 million compared to 26.5. So that's good there. Okay. So they only lost 8 cents per share on this quarter compared to 16 cents. So that is much better there. Weighted average number of shares, and I forgot to put in here the possible net loss based on getting rid of the dilution on it. But they were down 17. It still would have been profitable here, considering they only had a depreciation of 6.4 million. So there would have been closer to maybe being down 11 million something. All right, so that's the numbers there that we have. And if we look at some of the metrics up here, like I said, we have them at 9.2 million. Oh, geez, 9.2 thousand. Sorry. And cost to mine 1 BTC minus depreciation. Enterprise value is at 557 million. Debt to equity, we talked about that already, along with current ratio. Book value of equity, it was 134.8 million. Price to book ratio 4.13. Enterprise value was 557 million, and then a beta, which I just take out the depreciation. Interest expense and depreciation is what I took out of that one. Based on it, so they came in at 637,000. EV to beta was that right? Yeah. So 637,000 in the positive compared to a 3.7 million negative in the past quarter. EV to beta is 874 right now. Revenue and general administrative compensation, looking at that, I should be probably adding those two numbers here. See, I missed something. So on here, I should be also adding the 2.6 million here, which was added as well, since we're reporting on the 25 million here. So that's a combination of those. Based on that number, now we get 33% of their numbers here. So sometimes I miss things, sometimes I catch them. So it's definitely come down from where it was at 76% in Q1 down to 33%. We'd still have to see that getting down to around less than 20%. is ideally where we would like to see that. Obviously, when Bitcoin goes up in price to 100,000, 150,000, whatever that might be, that ratio there is going to be probably down to like maybe 5 or 7% because they're just going to be generating so much more revenue from Bitcoin itself. Okay, so that is it for them. Based on all of these things that we do have here, I still think that they're undervalued, and I believe I've updated the numbers here to include. Yeah, I'm using the numbers that they actually provided for what they mined in each of those months, so that's correct there. I saw them between $3.37 to $5.05. If we're looking into the future a little bit here, going out 12 months with the 8 months remaining before the halving event, mining at full bore at that point. So we're at $4.49 and $6.73. Especially after the halving event, you get your revenues decreased by 50%. So I still think they're undervalued from there. But I think the fear for a lot of the investors is their debt, the amount that they do have on it. And we know that they're going to be growing some more, but I think the fear of the debt here is contributing to why the price is possibly down where it should be a lot higher from there. But we've seen it with other miners as well that don't have debt, but for whatever reason they're down because of one reason or another. Okay, so like I said, I still think that they're undervalued from where they should be right now, and we'll see how they continue to do. Other than that, they just got to continue to execute. They have really great costs for power. The joint venture thing is a little confusing. I wish they would provide that all granularly more, or at least better data on that, on the monthly production things, so we could see what they're actually making for their self-mining instead of the combination of things. And that's why I'm debating whether or not, it's going to be hard though, because I don't have the data to figure out what their joint venture is and what their self-mining is, to actually calculate them on their self-mining part of things, because I believe the part that is the joint venture gets reported as assets. Correct me if I'm wrong there. Okay, but let me know what you guys think of Terawulf, obviously. And yeah, we'll see what happens there. All right, so that's it for those two. Let's take a look at what happened with the markets today, Bitcoin and the miners really quick. So the markets were up today. S&P was up 0.57%. Dow Jones was up 0.07%. NASDAQ was actually up nicely 1.05%. Bitcoin today was up just slightly. It was up 0.44%. It closed at 29,405. It is still range bound. It is still, I mean, like stuck on that 50-day moving average, like a horsefly on, you know what. So it's not moving anywhere off of that right now. It's gone below it. It's gone above it. But overall, it's just right on that center line here. You can see it. That's kind of where we're trading in right now. And it'll be interesting to see what happens going forward. I don't know if we're going to fall down. I'm still thinking that we might fall down, but I mean, right now it's just anybody's guess as far as which way it's going to go. Okay, Ethereum, same thing. Ethereum was up today 0.27% to close of 1,844. And this one has been hugging the 20-day moving average line. We've seen the cross on the 20 and the 50-day moving average here a while back. It bounced back up above it, or yeah, it's trying to bounce above it, but it's having a hard time right now. So this one might be a leading indicator as far as what's going to happen possibly with Bitcoin, where we might actually go down. But we'll see. Okay, as far as the miners were concerned, ANY was up today 1.95%. Argo was down 9.09%. Bit Digital was down 3.07%. BitDeer was down 4.93%. Before, I mean, at the end of the day, in the beginning of the day, they were up almost another, almost 8-something% they were up, I think, when I was looking at it earlier today. Bitfarms was down 3.8%. Cypher was up 1.36%. CleanSpark was up 0.46%. They were actually down like 4 or 5% at one point before finally bouncing up towards the end of the day, which is surprising, which is also good. Cores was up 1.53%. DigiHost was up 2.5%. DMG was down 4.85%. Greenidge was down 3.51%. Hive was down 2.78%. Hut 8 was down 6.4%. And that's, let's see, Hut reported their numbers in the morning. I don't know if that's contributable to their numbers. I mean, we did start out the day here much lower than we did on Friday here. Could be because of the numbers that came out. Obviously, investors are concerned with all the issues that they're having here. But they do have, like I said, a lot of HODL that should get them through any major issues that they have going for a long period of time. Okay. Iris Energy down 9.01%. Marathon was up 0.74%. Mawson was down 2.7%. Riot was down 3.74%. Soluna was up 0.36%. Stronghold was down 3.86%. Wolf was down actually 1.36%. It was way down here early in the day. And it finally bounced back up here to the 50-day moving average line, which it has been hugging for a couple of days here. And it's been kind of bouncing between the 50-day and the 20-day, it looks like, on that one. Okay. So we'll see what happens. Otherwise, let me know what you guys think of all this stuff. Where do you guys see things going in the future? Also, I have finished up the results for the most undervalued and the most overvalued companies. That video will be coming out within the next couple of days, probably. I just have to look over the data a little bit more, make sure it's accurate and everything else. But I have most of the numbers already in there, and just making sure that things are done correctly. And then tomorrow we'll talk about, obviously, Sphere and what was the other one? Soluna, that reported their numbers as well. Soluna hasn't been providing their quarterly results, not quarterly results, their monthly results. So they're in my doghouse right now, but we may take a look at the numbers there, see if they've actually improved or not. I haven't been tracking them, but we'll take a look at it maybe as well. Okay. And I think Greenwich also reported the numbers. We may just kind of take a look at it as well on there. Okay. So as always, the spreadsheets are available to my Patreon members. Thank you to everyone there for their continued support. Those are going to be uploaded later on tonight. And then we'll see what happens tomorrow, obviously, with the markets and everything else going on, and where Bitcoin goes. All right. So hope you guys have a great night, a great Tuesday tomorrow, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.